The cargo ship Asteria shattered in a silent flash of blue light, deep in the vacuum of space. From the swirling wreckage, Lyra, a 17-year-old biology intern, was thrown into an escape pod. The hatch sealed just as a wall of fire swallowed the main deck. In that instant, all sound vanished. Only the pounding of her heartbeat and her uneven breaths echoed inside her helmet. The locator chip went dead. On the screen, a red dashed line appeared. Signal lost. Strapped tightly into her seat, Lyra looked out the diamond-shaped window. Countless stars stared back like cold, distant eyes. The backup power had only 19 minutes left. No rescue signal, no human voices. She let the pod drift away from the debris, praying for a miracle. The miracle came in the shape of a shadow gliding past. An organic shape, soft and massive like a giant kite, latched onto the pod. She heard the hull groan as fine. Web-like threads clung to the metal. The pod shuddered, then was pulled away. She tried to send an emergency signal, but the lights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed everything. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer in the pod. She lay on a warm surface as soft as fine sand, beneath a transparent dome lit by violet light. The air smelled strange, salty yet sweet, and filled her lungs with warmth. A strange face leaned over her, large silver eyes like glass, skin tinted pale blue. The alien boy touched his fingertip to her forehead, leaving a gentle glowing mark, and spoke in a voice like a flute. "Safe!" Lyra woke inside a hollow formed by glowing roots that curved into an arched ceiling. There was no bed, only a layer of soft, warm mulch. The alien boy called himself Kale. He didn't speak her language, but whenever she moved and winced in pain, Kale would press his palm to his own chest, then lightly touch her arm, a gesture from his people meaning sharing warmth. The food was made of clear, marble-sized orbs that burst in her mouth with a gentle ocean taste and a hint of wood. She hesitated, but hunger made the choice for her. Kale watched her eat with focused eyes, as if studying a ritual. Outside stretched a planet covered in fields of glass-like cactus. The wind that swept through them rang like bells. Twin suns painted the land in violet and pink. Day and night followed a rhythm she didn't understand. Lyra was afraid, but the fear faded each time Kale smiled. A smile not quite human, the corners of his mouth lifting while his eyes blinked slowly, leaving silver trails in the light. That first night, when nightmares of the explosion tore her awake, Lyra sat up, gasping for air. Kale didn't ask questions. He simply lay down beside her, placed his hand on the ground, and made the roots glow warmer, the light spreading around them like a blanket. For the first time since the accident, she fell back asleep. The next day, Kale handed Lyra a flat board made from tree bark dusted with glowing powder. He drew a circle, the moon. Lyra wrote next to it, moon. Kale repeated it, drawing out the M like a soft wave. They began creating a small picture dictionary. Water, fire, pain, safe, friend. For friend, Kale drew two parallel lines connected by a bridge. Lyra smiled and placed her hand over his. Only then did she notice his fingers were thin like leaves, his skin warm and elastic, not frightening at all. They also learned each other's silent language. When Lyra bowed her head close to her left chest, Kale knew it meant thank you. When Kale tilted his head so a strand of her hair brushed his cheek, she knew it meant sorry. More than once, Kale suddenly froze, looking up at the sky, at faint, flashing trails. Lyra realized they were scout satellites from salvage crews operating in the outer rim. She wanted to send a signal, but Kale shook his head, his eyes darkening. "Danger," he said, in perfect human speech. She didn't fully understand, but she knew he was protecting her in the most instinctive way. Kale led Lyra through a valley where crystal-like columns rose like the pipes of a giant organ. When the wind blew, they sang melodies Kale called maps. "Listen," he said, pressing Lyra's ear to one of the columns. Inside, the vibrations weren't just music, they were the alphabet of his people. Each tone was a symbol, a direction, a water source, a safe shelter. Lyra quickly scribbled notes with chalk on a stone. Then she understood. This planet wasn't wild, it had a memory. Cale placed his palm against one column, and light rippled outward in delicate patterns, a whispered message. There are strangers here. That evening, strange lights rose from the west, sensor drones from salvage hunters. Lyra realized that if they found her, she'd be rescued. But what about Cale? His kind had long been seen as living cargo, a rare biological resource for the black market trade in medicine. When a laser beam swept across the valley, Cale pulled her into a hollow in the rock, holding her close, forehead to forehead, a gesture meaning a vow of silence. They both held their breath, listening to the distant drone of the aircraft above, like a shark circling the sky. In that moment, Lyra felt the weight of his hand on her shoulder, not as possession, but as a promise. I won't let go. The next day, Cale took Lyra to a lake covered in glowing algae. He scooped up some water and let it drip onto her wrist, leaving a luminous ring. Family, Cale whispered in broken human speech. Lyra laughed, her heart melting like warm wax. They played a naming game. Lyra called a bright fish Spark. Cale called her Leela. In his language, it meant the one who comes from the rain sky. They were carefree as children, even as the sky above occasionally cracked with the streaks of passing ships. That evening, Cale returned with a piece of armor from the Asteria escape pod, polished smooth like a mirror. He pressed it into Lyra's hands, his eyes bright. Home! The mirror reflected two faces, one human, one alien, touching within a violet halo. Lyra found herself smiling like a child rediscovering a long-lost toy. That innocence wasn't foolishness. It was a shield, strong enough to survive pain. And it was that same innocence that made Cale, always wary of the world, allow himself to trust. One night, the sky trembled with a low, distant rumble. The cactus map system changed tone all at once, a warning frequency. Cale grabbed Lyra's hand and led her running through glowing rock corridors to a deeper cave. From the entrance, they saw it, a massive salvage ship hovering above, mechanical arms sweeping through space debris, collecting the last remains of the Asteria. Lyra's heart tightened when she saw the painted name Helios Salvage. The company contracted to rescue the Asteria. Her way home was right there. Cale noticed her hands trembling. He took one, not squeezing, just holding. Go, Lyra whispered. Cale hesitated. He drew a spiral in the dirt, pointed at himself, at her, and then drew a straight line between them together. Lyra nodded, though her eyes stayed fixed on the rescue ship. In that moment, the longing to return home and the gratitude she felt toward Cale tangled together like two merging currents. She made a decision. Before anything else, they had to know Cale wasn't prey. She had to show them that life here was as pure as any civilization. Lyra climbed onto a high rock ledge, using a piece of armor to reflect an old Morse signal, something every rescue crew was trained to recognize. The Helios searchlights instantly locked onto her position. A group of humans descended on jetpacks. Cale stood behind her, his shoulders tense. The gun barrels weren't active, but they were unmistakably visible. "You're alive!" the commander shouted through a mask, his voice muffled. Lyra raised both hands, slowly turning so they could see Cale holding her hand. "He saved me. He is my family." She said it first in Cale's language, then repeated it in human speech. Cale touched his forehead to hers, a gesture of trust. There was a long silence. One soldier muttered, "Specimen." Lyra stepped forward, shielding half of Cale's body with her own, her chest rising and falling. She told them quickly about the explosion, the nights of fear, the glowing algae that warmed her, the cactus that sang maps. She didn't use technical terms. She spoke with raw truth and steady eyes. That truth had its own grammar, the language of a heart that had been protected. Helios insisted on bringing Lyra aboard the mothership for a medical check. Kale came too, a glowing locator band around his wrist. They were placed in a pristine white chamber, cold and silent. Lyra shivered, missing the cactus songs. A human doctor, a woman with kind eyes, approached Kale the way you would approach a child, no weapons, palms open. Kale looked at Lyra, then raised his hand in return. Their palms met through the thin glass, leaving two mirrored glowing prints. This boy, two heart chambers, slow rhythm but stable. No toxins, the doctor murmured. But outside, the legal department was already discussing the status of alien life forms. Lyra heard cold phrases like biological intellectual property and salvage asset. That night, she sat close to Kale in the holding room. He leaned his forehead against the wall, drawing a tiny bridge with his breath. Lyra pressed her forehead beside it and smiled. "Tomorrow," she promised, "I'll make them hear your song." A small hearing was held right there on the Helios ship. Lyra asked to play a recording she had made of the glass cactus tones. The frequencies resonated, not as a lullaby, but as proof that the planet spoke. She translated, "This tone means water, that one means shelter, another means there are strangers here." The doctor nodded. The commander quietly disengaged the safety on his weapon and let it hang idle. "This is not a specimen," Lyra concluded. "This is a citizen of a place that speaks." Kale, who had been silent until then, stepped forward, placing a hand on his chest and then on Lyra's, two heartbeats merging into one rhythm. Those present, whether they understood every word or not, understood the most important thing. Innocence and purity don't belong to any marketplace. The final decision. Helios acknowledged the existence of a biological culture with signs of language and recommended no salvage of living beings. Kale was free to leave the ship with Lyra, if she chose. The purple shoreline greeted them with a salty wind. Lyra and Kale returned to the valley, standing among the cactus pipes as they sang a new song. Lyra knew that one day she would have to leave and tell this story exactly as it happened, about the alien boy who found her in the wreckage and never let go. But today, she chose to stay to learn a few more words in the language of wind and roots and to teach Kale how to write their names in chalk. She wrote Lyra, he wrote Kale, then together they wrote home. When the twin moons rose, Kale placed his hand on her wrist, making the glowing band shine brighter. "Family," he repeated, this time in clear human speech. Lyra gripped his hand, not tight, just holding. Ships would come, laws would change. But some things had been decided in the very moment he touched her forehead in the dark. Innocence and trust, once given, can bridge any distance. And in the place where the vacuum once swallowed all sound, they made a song of their own.